Meeting started at 6:36.
Do you want a mic on? I'll get you one.
So, I said 6:36, it's actually 6:34 before meeting to order. Item number one, I talked with Ted yesterday that I said I would have the minutes ready. I don't, so we're gonna go ahead and defer them to next meeting. I don't know what I do with my notes, I'll probably have to go back to the previous meetings and listen to them, so I can create some notes off of that. So I guess at this point, we can go ahead and move on to item number two. We talked about this update on certified water rights. We talked a little bit about that last meeting. We were not sure exactly how much water we were using. We thought we'd take a look at how much water we were using compared to how much water we had certified. So much. And it turns out, I forgot to turn the mic on. So anyway, it turns out that Ted got me some numbers yesterday. We've been using, over the last year, we used 363 acre feet. We used 327 acre feet. We have certificated 362 acre feet. So we still have about 35 feet of wiggle room on our water rights. Quite honestly, I thought we'd have been over, so I was surprised to see that. So
It usually bounces up and
Yeah,
down each
yeah,
year.
but
But
we're
yeah,
right-
we could be, I think that
we're within that.
we're pretty much there, yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
we're there. I thought, I thought, that turns out to be using a 500 connection is the number I used when I did the math. That's about 60.67 acre feet per connection. On a 4-person home, that's going to be about 160 gallons per person per year, per person per day, excuse me. So we're right there on average. So anyway, that looks good. I guess at this point, we just need to make a recommendation of where do we go from here? Do we press on, or do we hold off for a little bit longer and solve some other items that are more pressing? I'm going to defer to our public works director on that one.
Oops, let me just try to get something. I think we need to start the process of figuring out which ones do we want to certificate, because it's coming up, right? We're going to need some within the next year or so. So I think we start the process of just figuring out, okay, where should we start? Which ones should we start getting perfected or certificated? And looking at growth, I mean, we're growing at about, on average, 1.5%, 2%. So, I mean, if you figure that's 4 or 5
a year.
homes.
It's 18% a year.
What's that?
If you do 1.5 per month or 1.5 per year.
About 1.5%, 2% a year.
Oh,
On
yeah.
average, this is over like 20, 25 years. So if you figure we need to add anywhere between, on average, 4 to 10, 4 to 8 on the year, that's what, around 3 to 5, 6 acre feet a year.
And
Like
we've
that. So,
been growing a little bit faster than that over the last couple of
yeah,
years.
last it's been accelerated. So, and if we're gonna, I mean, so 35, if that were to hold steady, we'd probably be okay for a couple of years. But I think we need to kind of get that process. It may not be like a high priority item, but at least get the process going. Figure, okay, which ones should we perfect? And let's. I think maybe that'd be a recommendation should be from the committee is here's some we should start with.
All that being said, I don't know if we haven't, well, let's just go ahead and do it anyway. I would recommend a motion from the committee to recommend to the council that we start moving forward with the process of upgrading our water rights for future growth over the next couple of years.
I second that.
We have a first, we have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, perfect. Unanimous. And okay, that was pretty straightforward. Item number 3, Ted, on-call contractor. Hey, Brian.
Okay. Other than we've got now contracts in place with two of 3 of the contractors. So the contracts have been finalized. we've got one of them that's going to be starting a project for us and going through our PRVs. I did go through another PRV about a week ago, and it needs a little bit of work in there. In fact, it needed a ladder. We had to go make a makeshift ladder to get down in it. I had to go get the attic ladder out of the fire engine because that was the only one skinny enough that would go down the hole, and had to have Zach up there prying it like this with his body while I'm going down the hole. And anyway, they need some work, so he's going to start going through them here pretty soon.
Okay, and he's just gonna go through, rebuild them as necessary?
Not yet. What his first stab is to go through and make adjustments to the pressure settings if needed, and then make an inventory of everything that needs to be done in them to bring, including replacing valves or adding ladders or stuff like that. Just give us an inventory so we can then get a handle on what needs to be done and costs and stuff like that. This is just kind of him going through an inventory and adjusting.
Okay, so he's gonna use that information to give us a proposal as to what needs to be done?
Well, first we'll go through and prioritize the needs, and then we'll ask for pricing. Yeah. So, because I mean, I'm sure every vault's going to have something except for the 6 new ones, and then we have to start prioritizing our funding to see what do we address first. He'll go in there and he'll exercise all the valves, and he'll adjust the pressure settings and a few things like that while he's in there, and then give us a kind of a list of each valve of what needs to be done.
Oh, yeah. Nothing more challenging than exercising an old valve, because now you don't, you're gonna get it exercised, or you're gonna have to replace it because you broke it.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
Well, these are mostly hydraulic actuated, so
yeah,
he'll be tweaking.
oh, that's on the actuator of the valve, not on the valves that open and close the vault.
Right, not on the isolation valves.
Just the
It'll be
isolation,
mostly
yeah,
on the
he's
drum.
just gonna, I got you now.
But he
Basically
might exercise those.
exercise the hydraulic portion of it. Okay.
Yeah, and see if the PRVs are good and stuff like that.
Okay, anything else on item number 3? If not, let's go ahead and move on to item number 4, well project update.
So the well project is, it is still being designed. And the only update I want to really give there is it's growing.
Is it what?
Growing. So we decided to replace the existing pump with the new pump that was
Right,
bought.
yeah, remember.
So go from a 125 horsepower pump to a 200 horsepower pump. So it gets us another 450-ish gallons per minute. Problem is we got all 6-inch piping in there. When you get up to 1,200 gallons a minute, it's not going to handle.
Yeah, what's the velocity at 14, 15 feet per second? Maybe.
Right. I mean, that pipe's barely sized for the pump that's in there now. And so we're going to have to upsize all the piping in the well and the valves and all that stuff. So I haven't put that together on the plan, and we'll just see where the prices come in. So wells, but it's probably going to take you another couple
So
of
that
weeks.
being said, I remember going through that with you. Is that going to be the same is that just in the vault, or is it going to be all the way up into the tank that we have that challenge?
I think just the vault, because I think it's a 12-inch to the tank.
Or tease into that 12-inch. Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. So the well project has grown a bit. So now it's not just replacing the pump and motor and adding the new VFD, coating all the concrete, coating the steel, cleaning it up, making the chlorine room compliant.
And then I also know we needed to add a waste valve in there. It was not a waste valve. We wanted to add that to it.
And they're going to do an actuated butterfly valve for that, so we're going to do that. So we're going to replace all the piping inside the wells also. And then I also found out that when our tank overflowed a few weeks ago, I found out that our overflow from our water tank, it doesn't meet DEW compliance, Division of Drinking Water compliance. So we're going to have to fix that too. Okay. So a number of items in the well. Project keeps growing. Almost at some point, it may be just cheaper to start over. We've been talking about it with the staff as well, and we've got the money to do it. It's just how much, at what point do we want to say, okay, is this getting to be too much, or can we live with what we got for a while? the general philosophy is we've got the money to do it. It's not gonna be cheaper. We probably just go ahead and just do everything that needs to be done now and be done with it.
So
for
when you
20
say,
years.
I mean, start over, I'm not quite sure what that
No,
means.
we won't start over, but.
Tear it out, bury the concrete, bury the
Yeah.
bulk.
At a certain point, it's like an old car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just tear the whole pump building apart, take it all down. We've done this with pumps, with well houses before. You tear it all the way down to the wellhead, and then you start. We did that in Eagle Mountain, actually, well number one. Tore it all the way down to the wellhead, and just the well casing was the only thing that was left, and we started over and rebuilt the whole thing.
Yeah, I know
We won't
exactly-
do that here.
I know exactly which pump you're talking
Yeah.
about. Okay.
So we'll be replacing more piping, more
So,
valves.
but bottom line is, our budget is also increasing, but we should have funds to cover that, right?
Yeah, we've got 180 in the ARPA funds, 180,000.
A couple hundred more to work with.
Couple hundred, we've got probably over $1 million in water fund.
Okay,
to work with,
perfect.
So, but we're saving some of that because we applied for a grant to do a water line replacement, and we need about 650,000 if we get that grant.
Yeah, I remember talking about that when we went through it. And the other thing we talked about on the design is we didn't see any lightning protection. I know we were talking about getting that added to the plan as well.
We did. Someone sent me an email before I forget that. I don't have it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, project's coming along. It's going to be probably another month before we get plans for that one, but just because we've had to have them kind of
Okay, so
go back and add some more stuff to the
another,
plans.
that puts us at the 1st of July, middle of July. Then we got to get the plans approved, and then we got to go out for bid. Then we got to get started. What's that going to do timeline-wise?
It's kind of a tricky balance here, which is a good question. If we can't get this before all the heavy snow, it may be that we have to somehow keep the road cleared with our new snow blower that, by the way, is getting signed tomorrow to get ordered.
Put a cable up on top so we can pull everybody up.
Pull everybody up the hill. Ideally, the best time to work on the wells during the winter because that's your least time, least demand time. So it's going to be a balance to start it with when the demands aren't at the highest peak point, but try and get it done before we get too much snow up there, or we just get as much done as we can, live off the Maple Canyon well, and then try and get up there early in the spring, get it done before the heavy flows.
You know, on that, I mean, we've got a deadline. I don't know if we have to have it spent or if we just have to have it
Committed.
committed on the ARPA funds.
I think it has to be spent
So
by the end of the year.
probably ought to get as much of that spent as we can, and that would probably mean the power upgrades. If we can at least
Right.
get the power upgrade into it, that'll, use our ARPA money to our advantage as well as, get that done because that needs to be done in the summer for sure because you got to trench into there for all the cabling and everything else.
Yeah.
And I guess from what I understand, USS, I used to call it Strawberry, so I'm still having a hard time with it.
SESD.
SESD, they have the parts we need, everything, material.
They do, and they've given us a quote and
And
everything.
I mean, I guess they're sitting on that. I mean, is it costing them money to sit on that?
Not that they've said. They said just let us know when you're ready. That was a month ago, so I don't know now. But they actually reduced their cost from when they first gave it. Prices went down.
It's always a win.
Yeah, yeah. We had them redo their costs and
So
actually came in
I would
over.
recommend it, at the very least, we push as hard as we can to get the electrical portion of it in, spend that $180,000 so we don't lose that.
Yeah,
I don't want to cost us money to save money, but at the same time, we need to use it as wisely as we can.
yeah, I agree.
How can we push it?
Well, get the design done first off.
Who's doing that?
Jones and Mill. And there, I mean, I've got probably, well, we were at about 90%, but now we had to take a step back because we got to redo all the piping. So they have to go back in and they're gonna have
Can we
to go
break
back.
that design up into two pieces if need be? Or at that point, is that
I think-
diminishing return?
Yeah, so, I mean, they're close enough now that I don't think there's any reason to go backwards, just keep pushing it forward. We're talking by the time it gets through our review process, gets done, gets through drinking water approval. We're probably talking.
Okay, so that's not, doesn't kill us because by the time everything goes, we kind of don't want to start until October anyway.
Probably about, I'm hoping that we have a contractor on board by about mid-August, so they can really kind of start in the September timeline when flows start to kind of reduce, because by
those
December,
sprinklers.
January, they're probably not gonna be able to get to the well.
True.
Unless we
got
keep
a
it.
small window. I just, yeah, like I said, we just, getting started is, you know, the timeline, like you said, maybe mid-August. A lot of that can still be done prior to shutting the well down, that we can get as much of that done. But at the same time, yeah, we've got that small window, and contractors are gonna be trying to finish off all their projects before winter anyway. And are they gonna be able to get to it? So, you know, I can't get to it, 'cause I've got 3 commitments that I'm trying to finish up already, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, we've got some contractors who are pretty interested in it.
Say, I still know some hungry people.
They don't seem that hungry when I talk to them.
They're not desperate, but they're also not backed up a year and a half like they used to be, you know.
Good, good. Okay. Anything else on that?
Nope, no, we're getting there. If anybody wants to get any involvement in that, let me know.
I think we get enough cooks on that one already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we had to almost redesign all the piping and everything because it was sized for the smaller well. I remember when we had that meeting, 6 weeks ago?
So why did the well overflow?
The tank?
The tank.
Oh, that was a,
Just a sensor went, that just kept going?
well, so what happened is our computer that houses our SCADA system that controls the pump on and off for the
Yeah.
well that pumps in the tank rebooted. It updated and rebooted, and it rebooted while the well was running, and it never kicked the SCADA system back on. So the well pump never got the signal to shut off when the tank was full.
It just kept going.
Just kept going. And we didn't know until we had a
Creek.
river running down Broad Hall, and a resident called and said, "What's this river?" And I was actually off home working in my yard, and I'm like, "Oh crap!" So
Of course you were.
start running around looking for problem.
told him
I knew right away pretty much what it was.
Can't take time off, man. That just doesn't work.
I figured it was either a water line break or the tank overflowing. And when they told me where it's coming from, I thought that's got to be the tank overflowing. But I had a contractor on the phone while I was driving there in case we needed someone to fix a water line break, and he was ready to come. And but we got there and shut it down, and I just had to go redo the system. So, yeah,
Okay.
fun failures.
Yeah.
Learning. But the good news from that's how we discovered that the tank overflow and drain discharge doesn't meet Division of Drinking Water air gap requirements. I didn't even know where the tank overflow came out of and went to until it overflowed.
I understand.
And we found it.
Overflows right out from underneath the fence and into that basin. That's not where it goes.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Nope. That's what I thought too. There's no basin there
The
anymore.
way I was explaining, it was explained.
Me
to
too. And by the way, there's no basin there anymore.
Okay.
But no, it goes down right, you know, where the big flat area is where they've pushed all that dirt.
That was the basin, right?
That was the basin.
Okay.
Well, below that is just a drainage. There's just a drainage, and it just pops. You can barely see the end of the pipe right at the beginning of that drainage off the side of the road. But it's in the drainage, and you have to have an air gap.
Right.
Yeah. 2 feet or 2 pipe diameters, whichever's greater. So we don't.
Hey, Ted, did you get a fix for the SCADA system so this doesn't happen again?
It wasn't the SCADA system's fault. It was the computer updating and reprogramming or shutting down. Well, I shouldn't say shutting down. It was the computer that updated and then restarted. So it wasn't the SCADA, it's the computer that houses the SCADA system. So it wasn't the SCADA
Sure.
system's fault. It was the computer that updated. And I don't know how, it's kind of one of those just weird things. I don't know how you stop that.
I just made in my notes as we were talking about this, that as we're talking about the redesign, maybe we put some sort of a mechanical float in there where if it does fail, the mechanical float will trip the,
It's like an emergency stop.
like an
Yeah.
emergency stop, exactly.
That way it actually doesn't overflow.
Yeah, it'll trip the contacts manually instead of electric.
Just a backup, that's a good idea.
You put them in.
Even though this
series.
problem will probably not happen for another 30 years.
Yeah, you
It's
put
such a fluke.
you put both contacts in series, and as long as this one do all the work, if this one fails, then this one will do.
Kicks in.
Anyway. Yeah.
And it's a small, really low cost by comparison to the consequences of not having it. Seeing as how we're already spending, you know, $300,000-400,000 on the project anyway. Okay, looks like there's no update on water line replacement at this point.
Nope, just still waiting to hear on we applied for that community grant funding or community CFP grant.
For those that weren't here last month, that he applied for a grant, it was a pretty short notice grant, correct?
One day to get the application in,
Yeah,
and
that's
it was a
pretty-
long
that's-
application.
That's pretty short. And so,
Yeah.
It was a long day, Ted.
Yeah, it was a scramble, but we
unfortunately,
got it
nothing
in.
broke when I was doing that. And so,
Yeah.
so anyway, and we're just waiting to hear back from that. So we
Yeah,
just-
still waiting to hear. That went through Burgess Owens'
Now, was that
office.
a matching grant?
It's a 25%, I think,
Okay,
is our
so-
match. And we applied for like it was like a 3.2 or $3.3 million project
Oh.
that would replace another good chunk of our 6-inch water line that's 50-something years old.
So would that be their portion is 3.2 million? Oh, sorry.
No, that's the total project cost. Yeah, I think theirs was 2.6 and ours was 6-ish. It was, dollars there somewhere.
Okay, well, that's good to know. We're still waiting on that. At least they haven't told us no yet, so.
I'm hoping the scramble actually helped us a little bit. Some just bagged it because it was everybody had 24 hours notice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That helps the odds.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the intent was to do half of what's left, right? It was like 1/3, 1/3, 1/3.
Right.
If
And-
we can get enough money, we try to do half of what's remaining in terms of the water line, right?
Generally, we couldn't quite get half with that amount of money, but the guidance in the grant was that you don't ask for more than 3 million. So we asked for 2.6 as their share, but it would do not quite a third of what was left, but pretty close because we're redoing the roads. with
And
it.
there's nothing preventing us from contributing more of our own money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we have more money to put towards it, make it a little bigger project, we'll certainly
We'll
do
see
that.
where it lands, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Okay, and real quick question on that one. Timeline wise, I mean, we really don't know the condition of that lines, of the line we're trying to repair. We just know that it's problematic. We just don't know how much time we're gonna have before we have complete failure.
Yeah, if I'd have brought my other disc in, I can show you what they look like, but I don't know the condition of those lines. But the lines that are were installed at the same time that we did replace, I've got pictures of those.
Pretty bad.
If you know about ductile iron pipe, it's ductile iron pipe, which is a certain thickness depending on what class. And then inside of it's a cement mortar lining. And lining is just a cement mortar that's really, really thin, and all of that's there for is to help the smoothness of the pipe, to help the flows. The iron would have been completely eaten away. The only thing that was left on some of these pipes were just that cement mortar lining that was keeping the water at least flowing in a hole.
And the fact that it was all 6-inch pipe,
6
for most of it, puts those flows up a lot faster, so it's gonna wear that concrete even quicker. So
Yeah.
it's the smaller pipe's going to shorten the life cycle of it.
We're buying time right now because these pipes have been in over 50 years, and that's usually the life of ductile iron, especially when it's not buried properly like this wasn't 50 years ago. None of it was 50 years ago.
So in other words, when we get money, we run.
Yeah. Yeah, we get it going right away.
What's the plan if we don't get the grant?
Cross your fingers and hope for the best. I really, truly, the next option, because we can't, to generate that kind of income, we'd have to probably go 3 or 4 or 5 years or more to do a piece of this. If we don't get the grant, the next option is we revisit our water rates and look at funding a project that would likely result in an increased water rate, which is what we did last time.
Everyone's favorite thing.
Yeah, which everyone loves. They love it when you raise taxes and water rates and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of one of the options. We look at some funding packages. I did that a little while ago, and our water rates wouldn't have to go up as much as they did last time, but they would have to go up a little bit.
We'd still have to wait years though.
Well, that last one we did, within a year? By the time we found the problem, got the funding, get everything installed, we were just a little over a year.
Yeah, a little over a year getting that one done. I mean, funding usually takes you about 6 months to get that lined up. The project's probably a 6-month project, something like that. So you design a few months in there. So you're a little over a year.
Available? Obviously it's not like there's a website like your water project.com.
Yeah, and
I mean, how often do you have grants show up?
so grants are usually, to get a grant is very difficult. So grant is when they give you the money. That's very difficult to get, and those are very rare. Usually there's some federal action that's created the need for a grant, COVID or something like that. Most times, what you're offered are low interest loans. And that's what we got to do our last project. With that low interest loan, a certain percentage of it maybe grant money. Or
That's what they call grant, is the decrease, the reduction in the loan rate.
it's a principal forgiveness. So they got it. What we got last time was we got basically 90% of it was a zero interest loan. And the other 10% of the 4 million was they call it principal forgiveness. In other words, it's grant money. So sometimes you can get some grant with your loans, but it's very rare you ever get all grant, especially our community, because they really look at your demographics. And our demographics is, we're almost the richest city in Utah, so you can see where they look at us. They're like,
So, you know,
raise your water rates. Everybody up there can afford it.
it's
So
all 40-year-old startup billionaire companies that we got.
yeah,
Not me. But
Hey, I'm retired on fixed income, so.
they look at what they call your MAGI, which is your median adjusted gross income, and ours is one of the highest in the state. So
makes sense.
we'd probably only likely qualify for mostly loan.
What is it, 2.6% for water and 4 point something for sewer? Of your, what they have is an affordability rate of 2.6. It means 2.6% of your income, you can afford to spend that of the city's median income on a water rate.
It's 1.75.
Is it something like that? So, and because our income, median income is so high, we can afford a lot of money, which kicks us out of the grant.
Yeah.
And this next one, maybe we fit a little better, it's hard to say.
So
Maybe no one else submitted.
yeah. This was one of those. This is a federal earmark money that gets approved by the federal government. I think it's through the Department of Interior. That Burgess owns. So EPA is where money that comes through the Division of Drinking Water, when we get those loans, comes from EPA. I think this one's come from the Department of Interior, somewhere like that. And it would be 75% grant money, so which would be awesome. Cross your fingers.
Okay, so much for no comment on that, no updates on that one.
Sorry.
That's great. It's good to know.
Item number 6, roads, pavement management plan. I know that, I can't remember their names now.
JDE. It's called JDE. for short.
Okay, anyway, they come down and give a presentation on that. About 2-3 weeks ago. I think Ted's got some updates on that.
Yeah, so this is kind of cool. This is AI technology to do pavement management planning. And this is still in the beta form. We are kind of the test case for them, which I said, yeah, we'd be happy to, because it didn't cost any more money. So what this does is this tells us, what they do is they drive the roads with a camera, and they drive back and forth on every road, and it takes snapshots every 10 feet. And from that snapshot, it identifies cracks, potholes, direction of cracks, condition of the pavement, all that kind of stuff. And then you can go in and it will tell you, right? So it gives you the information we're just doing a brief overview, but basically it tells you that we have 17.3 miles of roads in our city. And of the 17.3, it assesses them and gives them a score. And let me see if I can pull this up. No, not pulling it up. It probably will if I know how to work the program. I just got access to this today, so I'm still trying to learn it. Basically, it gives us a classification of our road, a grading. And of this grading right here, this is average over all of our roads. 5 is the worst. 1 is the best. 1 is a pretty good condition. 5 is it's gone. The road's gone. You can see most of ours fall into 2 and 4. The reason is, and we can scale these back so you can see them, but one thing they're working on right now they had an issue with is you can see the color coding's just not lining up very well. But one thing you can do is you can scale these back, but This gives us, we've got almost 4.5 miles of condition 4 road, which is terrible. And you'll see most of this is over here on Maple and Sky Lake, and you can look at any individual road. East Maple Drive is a 5.
It paints a street view.
Yeah.
And that's where that water.
They've got an extra road in there, by the way. Between
Here?
Sky Lake and Woodland Hills Drive. Yeah. Between the hairpin on Lower Sky Lake and Woodland Hills Drive, there's an extra road.
Schoolhouse,
There's,
that's fine. Schoolhouse, Highline.
oh, I see what it is. Okay, that makes sense.
So it goes through, and if you zoom in on this, you can see all these little dots. That is each individual picture it took, and it gave each individual picture a grade. And then it averages it for the whole street. And it tells you this one right here is a 5 road shop. It's gone.
How does that correlate with the water lines?
Yeah.
What's that?
How does
Water line
that correlate with
project.
the water lines?
Water line
So-
projects, those roads
Yeah,
all
that was
lead
the
to
one-
water line.
They were going to eat
Yeah.
that portion of the road anyway.
So for now, we'll keep them independent.
Okay.
Now, when we applied for funding to replace the water lines we applied for funding for are in Maple. I can't remember if we did a Highline, but we did Mountainville, Maple. Gosh, it might have been Lakeview and Valley View because we did the water lines over here. And I can't remember if we did, I got all of Sky Lake in there or not in Schoolhouse. I can't remember, but in effect, when we applied for funding to replace the water lines, we also included cost to rebuild the road, the entire road. So if that funding comes through, we'll rebuild all these roads with the water.
That
line
becomes
project.
part of the water.
But for now, let's kind of keep the water line and the road pavement separate. Just assume we're not going to get the funding for now. I'll show you kind of what the general approach to this is. And the company is going to come up and do a presentation to City Council on this. So if you zoom in on these, you can see that every individual picture, and you can look at the picture, you can see the grade it got. PCI, and that's a European something metric, and this is a pavement condition something or other. You can see in that particular section of the road, it actually is not in bad shape. Everything got a 1. But you go just a few feet down the road and then it's a 3.8, almost a 4. So it does that for every 10 feet of the road, going both directions on the road, and then it will give the overall road a grade. So that's where this overall road is a 4.25, which is basically bad road, very bad road. Now, you can also go in here, it does all your street signs. So I can pull up just the street signs, and I can look at all our street light signs in here, what they are, whether they have bullet holes in them and stuff like that, should they be replaced and all that. The street signs, it does everything's off the edge of the road. I got to figure out how to do that. They showed me, but I'm still playing with this. So, and then, so it goes through and it assesses every road. What you can see is over here where we expect the roads to be bad shape, they are bad shape. These are all the roads that we did with the last water line project. You can see that are our better roads. Here's the ones we just did a couple of years ago with our water line project. Through here. Yeah. And even those, some of them, are not quite as good. They're starting to crack. This one was one we did with our water line project. Oh,
15,000 dump trucks going through that one turn.
but you can, it's kind of interesting. You can see right where we ended the water line project, right here somewhere. You can see the road now starts to get bad after that because we didn't redo the road because we didn't do the water line project that far out. Anyway,
And just for heads up, the reason we didn't do the water line is it was recently.
it was all right. Yeah, it was recently.
Water line is fine.
It was, when they did, I think it was Woodland Hills Drive, they extended it down a little ways, so we just connected into where it was already. One thing they're working on with this program, the color scheming is just horrible. So they're working on that right now to get us better color. So this kind of lines up, so you can see, colors match up better. I'm working on that. So this kind of, we can go through and we can look at each individual road, see what condition it is in, and then we go to the planning table. This looks at every road and based on the condition, recommends a treatment. And then in there, it gives a recommended when that treatment should be planned for, how much area there is, the length, the cost. They put in a unit cost for, say this is microsil, it's per square foot or per square yard, however it comes in. They put in a unit cost, so it gives you a total cost for that segment of the road. And I had them bump that up by about 15% to account for some inflation and engineering and whatever administrative costs come with that. So,
Like 850,000.
And Ted, not that it matters, but I'm seeming to recall that part of Summit Creek, they never did come back in and finish the additional overlay of that road. I think that's, past the city being able to do anything about it. But is that where that problematic area is? Where
part of it. Summit Creek was probably a mid-range bad road. I mean, it's one that's cracking, obviously, and you're right. Well, I've heard the same thing. They didn't put their final inch.
in some places
over
they
it.
did, but not up higher.
Yeah. Whether we can go back and
It's probably been too long.
get that to do, and I don't know, but because that was actually originally that upper part was part of Thousand Oaks Plat F, if I remember right. And Summit Creek kind of took it over from Thousand Oaks. So, and you can go for it and you can look at, you can adjust this. So, if you look planned for and you do sort it by that date, it'll give you what ones we should be working on now.
But Ted, just a quick question on that. Can
Now-
you plug in your BNC road funds and other funds that you have, and then it'll come down a certain? Does it allow you to plug in your budget, and then does it be like a zero baseline? Say, okay, we can do up to X with the funds that are there.
The program itself doesn't, but we're working on that with the company. So that we can say, their question to us is how much do you have available a year to go towards the roads? Then they can start programming projects to work with what budget we have available. Ideally, we may wait 2 years, build up our budget for a couple of years, because it's better to do a $500,000 project than a 250,000. Probably get more bang for the buck. So it's kind of what we're looking at is we've got 200-ish thousand, maybe starts at 250 a year available for roads. I think we get 100 in Class C road funds, plus just what we collect to do roads with for maintenance. Now that includes fixing potholes and all that stuff too, but so we may not be able to spend all that. But if we build that for a couple of years. So for example, one thing I just talked to Chris Helvey about yesterday is when I was talking to the company about this, we have about $500,000 there. Their first recommended project is to go microsil all those roads we did with the water line project. If you work in the arena of pavement management, and I'm sure Nate understands this, saving what you have and extending the life of that is better than spending money on roads that are completely shot. So prioritizing those roads that we did with the water project is what they're recommending, and doing a microsil, because that'll give us, a microsil is a lot like a chip seal, only better. Microsil?
Yeah, I'm just saying it's been on the book for chunks.
No, that's crack seal. That's different than microsil.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying. The
Oh.
Microsoft doesn't leak.
Oh,
chunks
yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah. Microsil is kind of like a chips. If you've seen chip seal, it's kind of like a chip seal without the chips. The chips really work into that, so it leaves you a nice black, pretty, tough layer of wear course over it, I guess. But microsil, the advantage it has is rocks in like a chip seal. If you got cracks in the road, those rocks just kind of hide the cracks. They cover them because they can't really get down in the cracks real well. Or microsil gets down in there, it helps seal those cracks. So they're recommending. So we have about $500,000 in microsil to do those roads. It's about $500,000. When I was talking to Chris yesterday, we're going to have about 750,000 in our road budget probably next year because we didn't do any roads this
So
year.
are you talking next year, meaning July?
I mean next spring.
Okay, so you're not talking the budget year.
Right.
Okay.
Talking to spend probably next spring between the end of this fiscal year, what we're carrying over from this fiscal year, and what we're going to have in the budget for next fiscal year. We could have upwards of $750,000. So they're recommending we go out and first thing we do is microsil those roads. And that gives us a lot longer life out of those good roads. And you can see right here, they've kind of started prioritizing these for us. And when you say 850, that was actually just what was on that page. There's 5 pages. The total is about 2.1 million. And so, yeah, yeah. One thing, yeah, it prioritizes it, gives you the cost of every segment. So now you can start looking and say, okay, maybe this year we do this segment, this segment, this segment, based on our budget. And you can then go in and update this when the segments are done. You can redrive it and regrade it and get it updated in this. So it's continually updating the program. You can see these are all the micro surfacing projects. But then you get down in here in a couple of years, 3 years, they're recommending some of these roads that are not as good at, so Deer Meadow is Summit Creek, right? The upper part of Summit Creek. Summit Creek Drive, some of these are not great shape. They're recommending like a mill and fill.
Did they add, 'cause I saw in the picture that they added some actual private roads in some creek.
They could have drove those, yeah. We wouldn't do them. They could have, because they were just driving everything we have in the city.
So we just pull them off of that and change that number.
Just a little bit,
Probably not.
just skip those roads. So it gives us, and then, you get down into maybe 2.5, 3 years out, they're recommending we then start revisit some of these roads that are in so-so shape and do 2-inch mill and fill. And then you'll notice in about, 5, 6, 7 years is when you get into your really bad roads, like over on basically pulverize and repave. And that's what we did with our waterline roads. What's that? Yeah. Eagle Nest is not great shape.
Most of town.
And that's where they're recommending some pulverized and repaving. And one thing I was learning, attended a seminar on pavement management. It's really kind of cool, but they recommend mixing a cement base in with pulverizing.
So how does the priority work? There's a priority column. Does it tell you what it says, gives you the expected life and all that?
This is just low and high priority. So this is lowest.
Yeah.
Kind of
Um,
based on what you're saying.
But
That's a good question.
I know what you're asking.
yeah, but is it accounting for, hey, if you do this, you can expect another 5 years, which extends the life, or if you don't do it, how is it prioritizing that, I guess is what I'm saying.
So right now, the prioritizing is just based on the current condition of the road. It's not considering the treatment, right? So it's saying your road's in bad condition. It's a low priority because it's gone already. No reason to focus on that. Save what you've got.
Gotcha.
When you get over here, see this column right here, if I expand it out, life expectancy, life extension. So if we pulverize, remove, and repave Deer Meadow Court, we expect 25-year life extension. So it does give you what the expected life extension is of the road by doing.
If we look at one that's like a sealed existing, of high priority, so really you could just take.
So if we go and look at, say, for example, South Oak microservice, and that was a piece of, no, this was actually Oak. We redid the Waterline project. So you can see plan for 2025 next year, if we were to do that. And that will extend the life of that road by another 6 years beyond what it would normally. So it was pulverized and repaved, which is probably about a 20-year life. So now this will extend that by another 6 years. So what they're saying is and then you'll notice that they're recommending the projects be completed by 2030, 2031. So when you come back, now that road that you microsealed 6 years ago, you want to now readdress that one because you added 6 years to it.
So there's probably an education to the community too, because if
Yeah,
I'm living on a street that looks nice already, and now we're seeing the city.
yeah, spend money on that.
That's fine. I'm glad he has to do that.
Yeah. I mean,
It's funny because I was thinking about that yesterday as I left this pavement management kind of training thing. I was leaving there thinking, oh, this is going to go over great in the community. When I start telling them we're going to go save the roads that are great shape, and instantly TED Talks. I don't know if you guys read the newsletters. There's a TED Talks. Yeah, but it is going to be an education community. Say this is why we're doing it. this is how we'll get the best use of our funds.
Especially those of us that live on a good street.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, let's just remember, we used to live on really bad streets until they became.
Yeah.
So that makes total sense even before going through this, because as I was just reading up on this, it always made logical sense that you take care of your good roads. And up in Oregon, they took care of the roads that they replaced before they went and replaced the others.
Yeah.
And it was just natural. Even up in Michigan, it was all the same.
It's so much cheaper in the long run. Just keep it moving.
Yep.
If you were to look at this piece of road, you micro seal this, whatever it is, 3,000 feet for, you know, say that little piece of road there is $1,500 to micro seal. You do that every 6 years. I mean, to pulverize and repave and replace all that pavement would probably cost you, yeah. It's gonna,
Especially by the time.
yeah. If you spend $1,600 every 6 years, you're going to be miles ahead.
And that makes, I mean, to be honest, anybody would disagree with that in the community needs to be
Just show
checked
up.
in.
Yeah. They will. It'll hit
Yeah,
Facebook.
it's-
No one will listen
You'll,
to any of the kid discussions about it or read the talks and then they'll just hit Facebook.
Point here is, you know, we're spending, you know, $1,400-$1,500 on that. You know, we're gonna spend more on that probably fixing the pothole at the bottom of Woodland Hills and Maple.
Yeah, I actually got a cost for that today to fix 6 potholes. So
How much?
What are you gonna? So
How much would you do?
$4,500
I was actually
So-
gonna.
to do 6 potholes.
What's their fix?
Yeah, that's what I was
Saw
gonna say.
cut, square patch out, take all the old pavement out, all the way down to the base. Recondition, recompact the base, and then put the asphalt back in. A half-inch HMA with 15%.
So can I propose just like a one-off thing, like non-shrink route? Is there any reason we wouldn't do that temporarily?
I don't.
There's a lot of ways this gonna, there's some
There
really
really
expensive
are.
epoxy things too that exist to repave.
Yeah, it's.
You said 15 now?
They can do up to it. They'll do usually a 15 and 20 is the most common. I don't. 20 is just a little high.
It is high, but it's hard when it's a pothole.
I was actually gonna bring this up on another subject, but since we're, we still got to go.
Yeah, it was, and $4,500 to do 6 potholes. I mean, I've got a couple of bids. One of them came in at $2,500 just to do one. And this was Eccles paving. They said $4,500 to do 6 potholes. I'm like, that's yeah, and that's a pretty
They're
good
gonna
deal.
saw cut and do it like that.
And the reason is, I think with non-shrink route, which I think is a great idea, so most of these potholes are over on Maple and Mountainville, and then that one right there on Woodland Hills Drive, that may face with the witch coming out of it. The reason I'm hesitant to, because I think non-shrink route's a good idea. I think it's going to cost probably a little more money for that, but these roads are ones we're likely going to, if we get the water line funding, we're going to replace. So I'm hesitant to go out and spend a whole lot of money on them yet. Yeah, that's what I said. It depends on what your not so good versus good is.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We went and bought the bags of cold patch mix that you can buy at a hardware store. And that's what we put in that one. It lasted about 2 days. It bounced right out of there. We put sandbags in there, same thing, tore them up. Yeah.
Well, and that's where non-shrink grout is what I'm saying. I mean, you can get that spec to where it's 2 inches deep and you're just fine. I mean, it's strong as nails. And stable.
Yeah.
So,
Big
yeah,
as a deal.
I mean, at least until we repave, and it's literally like a few $100.
You know, I'd rather have something last 5 years and we replace it in 4 years than to have something that only lasts 3 years and have to replace it again before we, that makes sense?
The only challenge I have with like these potholes, and I'm not opposed to this. I personally, I'm not seeing non-shrink route used used in falls before. It's like,
I've only
Interesting.
done, it's never been sanctioned, but I've done it on a lot of road repairs. And it worked really well.
is if you go look at Maple, this patch that we're gonna put on is gonna be the nicest piece of that whole road. You know what I mean? It's that whole road. As we were driving up there with the guy, because 3 of the potholes that we're trying to fix are on Maple.
And they are plow wreckers.
They are plow wrecklers. Well, the ones right on the corner of Maple and Woodland Hills Drive, there's 3 on Maple and then one up on Schoolhouse that's already ruined someone's tire. And then one over on Summit Creek. But when we were driving up there, it was kind of funny because the guy's like, I was driving it with the guy from Eccles, showing him which potholes I was looking at. Like, what about this one? What about that one? What about this one? What about that one? All the way at Maple. Like, let's just get these 3 worst ones done, then we'll see where we go with the funding. Because we could spend, well, basically
Replace the road.
Yeah, replace the road. We could.
So another along those lines, example, on your building department,
Yeah.
we had the road done on South Road, and then you come in and did a road cut to put the gas line in, put a temporary fill in, and they've never come back to the fill. Do we have any sort of a process that says, hey, excavation permit or something like that, that says, you come back and finish the project? I mean, they did it in October, November. Except for temporary, and temporary is held up pretty good, it's still just a full back. Remember, but they have not come back.
Are we certain it was a cold patch?
Pardon?
Are we certain it was a cold patch?
I would suspect that by then we.
Some plants, because temperature dependent plants will stay open until I've had them as high as mid-November.
We expect, because I talked to them, said, yeah, we'll just get there after the road, come back. And we haven't seen it yet. It's just a process that we need as a city to say, hey, you're gonna do this, as a whole, either with a memorandum of understanding or an excavation permit that would take place, so you don't do what we'll.
Yeah, we do require them to get an excavation permit whenever they cut into the road. One thing UDOT used to do, because I did these inspections for UDOT for quite a few years, is they would, if there was cold patch put down, they would, that's fine, you gotta come back and replace it in the spring. And what they would do though is they'd go out and inspect it in the spring, and if it held up and looks good, they'd say, don't worry about it. And let it go. So it's kind of a condition-based
This would settle, it's
inspection.
good. The only concern I have is, traffic continues, it's just gonna get worse and worse.
Speed bumps.
Next time you drive down, maybe,
Where's it at?
right, plus, right from
Just
my
right
house, and
between our houses.
had to cut the gas line into, did half of it when they bored the other.
I didn't work in the city.
No, you didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you end up owning that one, but let's just make a process.
I don't know what our permit said. So I really haven't done those yet. Or we've had to cut it. I know there is an excavation permit required. I don't know yet.
Can everybody check their mics, please? Ted, yours is great.
How's mine, Mark?
I'm struggling with yours, Mark.
Brian.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay.
That's better.
All right. Any other questions on this?
I mean, I guess not to beat a dead horse, but I'm kind of curious, like what would the timing be on the pothole fix? And then, I mean, it doesn't bother me any, but I'm just looking for effective ways to get something filled in. Like I said, if we're doing, if we don't have a plan of action, we got to try it on a couple and just see how it performs, because we're not losing anything anyways, even if it's not one of the 6 that we do the whole heat patch repair. I don't know, in my opinion.
Yeah. I've just never seen it used in, and maybe it's in, and we'd have to talk, because I mean, we'd have to find a company.
Depending on the, I mean, it's just,
I guess maybe, do you have a recommendation of a company we could reach out to that does it with?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've got a couple of, I don't know what the insurance requirements are for the city.
Yeah, let me know. If you pass that along, I can reach out to them and say what is, and we can do kind of a comparative cost. So the potholes will be done in about 2 weeks. they're going to expedite it for us. Because I stretched it a little bit, told we have to have it done by the end of this fiscal year. Technically, we really don't, but that's what because I wanted them done quickly. He says, well, see if I can pull some strings. And right, if you know asphalt pavers right now, they're just slammed. So I was pulling, he says he'll pull some strings to get them up here for us within a couple of weeks. Yeah, probably.
Okay, anything more on that? And I'm with, Steve on this, I think that sooner is better than later, because, you know, everybody's, it's almost like we become accustomed to it, it's the part of the day. I think that we need to, you know, we owe it to the people that are driving that way, especially the mini drags that get that. That's what I'm doing. Anything on West Open?
So what I had him do, that design is about probably 99% right now. And they're just wrapping up the final design drawings, and then we'll start putting the bid documents together. Probably have that in that bid here in a couple of weeks. What I had him do is I had him add the, because we have it's basically they're taking out 5 feet of the existing field. And that's as deep as we could go before we started having to take out manholes.
5 feet's about as, that road's been built in chunks.
Yeah.
5 feet's about all the stuff that was just thrown.
It could be right because that's about where you start to get to the bottom of the manhole. So if we go deeper, we're going to start undermining the sewer manholes. So that's kind of held that 5 feet for that reason. We didn't want to start losing sewer manholes. So they're taking out 5 feet and then they're going to rebuild that back. And we've got 2 layers of that geotextile fabric, but I had them add it in the bid schedule per square foot. So if we decide we can eliminate some, we just don't have them put it in and don't pay them for it. So where would at the bottom?
Really,
Because it's not too late. I can have them take out one of the layers.
no, I mean, reality of all of it is the fabric is to mitigate excess sediment. Really don't know how all of it's going to yet. We don't, any of it is really. So bridging it between what's old and what's new, helps the new stuff to hold together. If something down below decides to settle out a little bit, it'll blow a bit of that.
Or take out the 5 feet or whatever, and then put the fabric down, put new fill.
And then the 5 feet of fill, and you can put a fabric on top of that, but it's not necessary. Fabric is great. Fabric adds a lot of strength for size, and the fabric that's recommended.
Okay.
So yeah, we can throw another one in the middle, and it'll add a decent amount more strength. And if we do see excess settlement down below, an extra layer of fabric will help absorb a bit more of that. I don't really expect a lot, but I mean,
How are we going to address the culvert?
Getting replaced.
with the big trench down the middle.
They're going to dig in a new culvert because they're taking 5 feet to fill off anyway. So that reduces their. Yeah, and we're putting.
Take it 5 feet.
Take everything down 5 feet, trench the.
Go from there.
Yeah, because we're realigning. So the culvert that's in there now is actually not in our easement. It goes on to the Henderson's property. So we're realigning that culvert to stay within the city's drainage easement. And then we're going to put in a concrete pipe. So once I get the 5 feet down, well, I should say this would be my approach, but we don't direct the means and methods of the contractor. We let them pick how they want to do it. My approach, if I were the contractor, would be to take that 5 feet off, then trench and put the culvert in, and then start building back up from there. That's what I assume they do.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, my guess is it got, you know, again, we'll never know. It's probably flattened when they put it in. It probably wasn't very proper.
Yeah.
It's probably been there for 6 days. So, nonetheless, we don't know that, so we have to do it. That's not what.
It is flattened, by the way. Corbett climbed in there. It's flattened.
Yeah, I'm saying, I think
Yeah.
it's flattened since day one. But
So we're
we haven't
putting,
seen any change.
so we're putting a new one in. It's, so
That
it'll be,
trench will be where everywhere else.
Yeah.
You're not building that in there. That's going to be right.
So what I think maybe we'll do, I'll have to do is keep the 2 layers shown and we'll get pricing for it. And if for budget reasons it just is too much, then we can at least take 1 layer out. Because I've got them, I'm having it put in the bid schedules, an individual bid item.
If anything, we just need to have them all do a thin layer. The rest of that has sat for so long, that 5 feet on top of the that we're getting rid of, it's settled. But when we dig a trench all the way through the middle, that's the spot. Even when we do the best job compacting, it's gonna fail.
Yeah.
It's gonna settle more than the rest. You'll see 1 inch to 2 inches of drop. That'll give you a little look within the first 6 months. And if you throw an extra layer of fabric in there, or a little more.
You said it was 99% was on.
Mhm. She's just finishing, well, that's good, what we call final for review. So she's taken all the feedback we've given them. I want to say she, it's actually they, Johnson and Bell. Keep saying she because it's a drafter. That's Amanda Lorendo is the drafter. Yeah, she's the CAD drafter for Matt is the engineer. She's the, yeah, but anyway, so
Did you know that she was always smart?
yeah, that's what I heard.
She was
Yeah,
always.
yeah, she's does part-time CAD for Johnson and Bell. So she's the CAD drafter. on this.
I was just wondering if that is, the city's on the hook for that cost, or if some.
Well, so technically,
We talked a little bit about this and we don't need to beat it, but,
the city is on the hook, is the short answer, yes. However, Summit Creek has agreed to contribute to the project, just to kind of wash their hands of it. They're just going to give the city some money and we're going to manage the process. We were hoping because part of it falls in Summit Creek's development area that, you know, our initial approach was you guys pay for half, we'll pay for half. When we got digging into everything, it's a city street, it's city right away. It should have been done prior to Summit Creek because it was part of Plat F, Thousand Oaks Plat F. So under the old developer, which was Don Meekum, who did all of Thousand Oaks, that's when it should have been done. So it was not done then, and therefore Summit Creek really doesn't have any responsibility. Can't legally make them, but they're willing to contribute. I think it's 110,000 to the project, and basically just say we'll give you guys the money. You just finish through. The estimate's in the neighborhood of $500,000.
That comes out of that road budget.
That road funding we have.
Some of that.
Road bond.
The funds we had, funds we bought, so there was probably 20,000.
350-ish or something.
Probably be about 150 left.
One of the roads, I think.
Yeah.
is there any, well, and
So
Well, we've got about 350 there. Summit Creek's giving me 110, so 460. So it could be less than 100. But yeah.
I mean, there's nothing that the city can use as leverage for future developments in terms of making that happen. There's no fire like this or any requirements like that. Force a developer who's coming in to do that.
We would love to be able to do that, but so Summit Creek took over Thousand Oaks. So if you know about Thousand Oaks, that was Don Meekum. He went bankrupt. He did everything basically from
Thousand Oaks starts there, right past Broad.
right past Broad Hollow, right about halfway past Broad Hollow, going towards the
So just
Eagle Nest.
before Loafer.
just before Loafer. Yeah, so he did pretty much everything there and around down past my house, include all of Eagle Nest, including part the way down Summit Creek, down to about where Loafer is. That was in what was called Thousand Oaks Plat F at the time. So what happens? He went bankrupt. The city at the time was maybe new, growing up, learning, didn't collect bonds. When he went bankrupt, they really had no bond to go back to and finish the work that wasn't done by that developer. Yeah. They really, we met with our attorneys about it. They really don't have to do anything. They'd say, no, it's your guys' problem. We're not giving you anything, but they offered to give us a little bit of money for it. So we're like, yeah. So it would be nice to be able to do it. And really, that road was kind of at one time was partially there, and it got tore up when the city put the sewer system in.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so that one hopefully goes out to bid in a couple of weeks, and trying to get done before November, end of paving season.
Okay, item number 8, sewer maintenance, any updates on that?
No, maybe just a thought from the committee. Maybe we are going to have to take over maintaining the system at some point. The thought is we video it or sound it every couple of years. Just keep it. We had it sounded last year, and it's all in good condition. I met with the people who did it, and they're recommending it maybe every year, at least every 2 years. Going to do it. They're recommending next we do a video. I think the video is going to cost $25,000 to video the entire series. Guessing.
Is that too late?
Here's stuff like that.
It was about 10. It was about 10 to sewer it or sound it. Well, haven't you seen that on the back of the, one of my projects was a sewer treatment plant expansion project. I was out there for like a year and a half. I used to have this saying that yours is our bread and butter.
And that probably the same, I get that.
Mhm. Timpanogos.
That's what you get.
Yeah, I mean, maybe give us some thought. We don't have to, come to a conclusion or decision this meeting. Give us some thought if when we take this over, do we video it every couple of years? I'm guessing on the price to video it. Sounding it cost about $10,000. We did that last year. That was just before Corbett left. They just finished that up.
Sounding found that we were in good shape.
Sounding found that we're in good shape. We had one sewer that was partially plugged, they said, but it's not a sewer. It's in an undeveloped area right now.
We used to use 2 years, trying to get a further done each year. But on an annual basis, we always like to look in a manhole and just look for a bathtub ring, say, hey, have we got it back up or something like that? Look at it, so there's no evidence, and just all that is just time and a little bit of muscle. Lift the manhole, say, yeah, that looks good, or maybe we had a problem there that we can identify. Most of the time, there was no indication of the problem at all. There was, and you check it out. Say, hey, yeah, we're okay, but no evidence of it.
And that's what they recommend. Don't video the whole thing at once, right? Rotate it. So you do a piece every year and just keep looking. Yeah, we got about 5 miles of sewer line. Or we rotate it and do a couple miles every year, or every other year, or every 2 years, or something. Yeah.
So how old are the average sewer lines?
20 years.
About 20 years. They were put in with Thousand Oaks in early 2000s.
25,000.
About right, early 2000s.
2002, 2003.
Well, Thousand Oaks didn't have it in that context, being up high, then Loafer. So when was that? That was, when did
Some of the things I've seen were the early 2000 year mark.
was that more toward the bottom of that?
More towards around the Eagle Nest area. Park might have been a little bit before that, like late 90s. I think down through Plat D was kind of the early 2000s when I was looking on the plat, like our plat. And you're in Plat C or D. So you might have been just a little before that, like 2000 type period.
Either way, we're talking 30.
25, 30 years. It's all PVC.
If the sounding says we're good, when you apply, right? Is it one of those things that it's like when you go to the dentist every 2 months?
All the green pipes, that's our sewer. All the green means good condition. This was the assessment. All the green is good condition, the red are plugged. But this is down where we don't even use these. What's that? Yeah. We don't even use these sewers.
Summit, yeah, they're not even prepping that.
This is all dirt. This is, yeah. This is Loafer right here.
That'll-
This right here was one that was just, they said was,
You know, did they check for those spots?
Not for sounding, right?
not sounding, it was just condition of pipe.
But a video would.
Video would tell us, and also the other advantage we'd have to a video, that one reason I was thinking about doing it at some point here in the near future is because we can find all the services with it. Sounding, we can't find the services.
Sure.
And
All
they-
the
they
map and all
map all the services in here so we know where all the service lines are. So,
Yeah, just, I know, we want to get out of this, one more quick question. These are, there's a rigidly going to maintain, they have said, no, we're not going to do that. Is it possible to talk to Jason and say, hey, we might something?
yeah, possibly.
You might get a better deal on phone safety, even on whatever, you know, no good safety on stuff, like that.
that. Ask.
Just,
Jason has the ability to do it.
they do, they were originally going to do it, at least that was the understanding of the city.
To see what they charge us to do it.
There's also pictures of all the. So you can see that shoes in pretty good shape, but I don't know, maybe we start in a couple of years and think about it. Anyway, make some, think about it. Come back next time we meet with some recommendations on what your thoughts are. Do we video parts of it, all of it every 3 years, or do a little bit every year? And is it worth videoing that often? I would like to do an initial video just to get locations that it says those spots and
Be nice to have a baseline.
services and
There's not a lot of city, so.
see they took a picture of every manhole as they shot it.
See, that's where you look at that stuff.
Anyway,
Any more on the treatment plant?
nope, nothing more on that.
There's been nothing else on sewer maintenance, that was the all discussion points, snow plowing.
Well, they got them in. Craig will either by himself or with somebody swap out the parts of that we are going to keep, change tires, stuff back on, put the new ones. But more than anything outside of that, because that'll happen over the next few months. But I did go around and I tagged one of your fancy maps
Oh, hey, I can probably get a little fancier if you want.
where there would be some challenges with shoulders. So I've done some specific tagging. I mean, we don't necessarily need to go over it, but there are some places that either for snow plows, we do try to do training of how you take corners so that you don't actually get sucked off into the snowbanks and stuff like that. Well, really what happens is when there's a drop off, and when you get stuck, you take all snowplows off the road because they're trying to get each other out stuck, and that you just think of every 10 minutes you're missing them. And in snowstorms, it's a problem. And that's when the stick gets, I mean, that's when people get stuck. Snowplows, people don't realize is people think, oh, well, the cars are going to slip around. No, the snowplow drivers, that's where we order the pants, right? It's so anyway, places where there's shoulder challenges, I just marked a bunch of spots here that if they could be addressed. But once again, everything costs money. There would have to be rock and road base brought in to bring them up to the level. But anyway, so I've tagged on this map some of the more challenging spots, not only for snowplows but also for residents when they go off.
Yeah, it's a snowplow drivers are doing, it, so are the general public and construction trucks and everything else.
And just something, maybe a little side note, with some of these shoulder repairs, is it'll also preserve the road, because some of that stuff that's under.
So is that something that we can look at with our maintenance budget?
It's not, it shouldn't, I mean, I don't want to be too Pollyanna on it. I just don't see it being, large sum of money. So,
Yeah.
now, once again, I'm not talking going in and digging it all out and.
You just want to level it out.
Yeah, level it out in certain
Good
spots. Now, you might
compacting.
need to put different material in certain spots so it doesn't just wash out. But it's mostly just kind of bringing it up to the level so that if a vehicle does go off, that they're not going off, right?
So, yeah, my probably the most dangerous interaction is when we had that early, or late October snowstorm, it had been warm and the roads completely iced up, it was just 5 years ago. And just below the fire station here, a van slid off into it's halfway out the road. And I'm coming down sliding and the snowplow's coming up. And we all meet at the same place. I'm like, okay, how am I not gonna hit something? I don't know how I made it through there. So, and that's, I think one of the areas you probably talked
Yeah,
about.
yeah. I mean, there's very specific spots. Once again, I try not to go crazy. It's just where there has been some challenges. So
So was the suggestion for the next step? Do we,
the next step.
Go
would
look at
be-
those
I mean, I
spots and
can-
then start
I
addressing?
can put this into more of like a list.
yeah,
And even with like, how many feet this would be. I mean, I can do something very general, and then maybe the next step would be what kind of materials would be needed, and then do some kind of just a baseline estimate, because you have to build in labor and, yeah, do you have somebody come up and do it, or something like
that's my approach is that's what I was thinking. If you can come up with like locations and maybe from here to here
that?
type thing,
That's exactly. Yeah.
I could call someone and we could go drive it and look at it and say, this is what we need done. And then have someone give us an estimate to do it. I think that'd be probably the best way to get it tackled. I do have two things. Well, we got the patching quote that came in and then also park wood chips. So I've got a company that's giving me a quote because those are supposed to be 9 inches deep and ours are about 2. Playground. So we're going to be putting about another 6 inches of chips in that playground. About 80 yards. It has to be playground certified chips. Yeah. 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 So,
How do we certify?
yeah. What we do is we send the public works committee out there sandpaper and sand the edges off every chip. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. We can instead of sanding the chips, we can instead make protective wear requirements for kids when they go to the playground.
They'll abide by that.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on snowplows?
And I do want to talk to you, Dave, about some plows I'm looking at, some wear blades.
Mhm. Yeah.
Some that Craig recommended that are a little different than what we have.
I think you sent me something else I didn't look.
Oh, did you? They seem kind of cool. I was watching videos on it today. It's the same material that we make ours out of. They just got come in segments, so they flex a little
And
bit.
they also flex up.
Yeah. And then he says, and when they said instead of having to replace a whole blade, you can replace segments, and you can do it just one guy can easily do it.
So it's a segmented.
Today, you basically have to replace your whole blade. You're talking, $4,000. Not quite a season. And they're a pain in the butt.
And usually a cutting torch.
Yeah, because you got to cut the bolts out.
So anything that makes it simply swap.
It's probably more expensive initially, but in the long run, it'd be cheaper because you're only replacing a piece. Because a lot of times we're trying to say, well, we could only replace
That
this
portion
part
of the
that.
blade.
This is just our water system, GIS, it's our entire water system, including valves and PRVs and it's got all the valves, PRVs, hydrants, meters.
This will eventually have the PRV settings.
Yes, yes. Once we get going through all the PRVs, we'll put photos in, we'll put, you know. I've been going through, I need to find someone who can help me out with this, been going through and marking, like our water line project that was recently done. Going through and marking what year that was done, what type of pipe material and that kind of stuff. So we're, as you can put in here, this was 8-inch main line. That's what I'm remember, but you can go in here and put in. Yeah. Yeah, that one I'm pretty familiar with, so I can get that one figured out. But so we can go through and populate all those with everything. So we'll do the same with PRVs. Incoming pressures on that kind of photos. I've got this on my phone too, so I can pull it up.
Having some sort of knowledge was, about we need shit off. Instead of trying to figure it all out on the spot.
This was the hydrant we just replaced, so I came in and marked it. Fire hydrant, standard red, water is what kind of was excellent condition because it's brand new. When it was flushed, size of it, type of fittings, inspection date because that's the day we replaced it. Who did it? Year installed. So we'll be doing that for everything. I've got a carried on your phone. I pull it up out in the
And
field.
that's great. I'm just thinking, you're not around. Can you give me a call? We can like you so far.
Yeah, Zach's got on his one too. Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have. Anybody,
I'm good.
next meeting date, July meeting is, July 4th weekend. I don't think any of us are going to be available for that. So that really pushes us to August, and then September is going to be Labor Day, so it's either August or we wait till October. Should we just go ahead and schedule August, and if we can't have any updates worth discussing, we'll just go ahead and cancel that until October?
Hopefully by then we're doing less loafer or getting the well.
Sounds like August may be a good.
Agreed.
That's August.
Shoot for it if you can. 6th of August.
6th, okay. 6th, good.
Yep. All the way down.
Thanks, Brian.
Good night.
Yeah, well, we're looking at here.